Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're looking at technology and music education. We've got some really cool material about Google's Notebook LM. Have you heard about this?
Oh yeah, Notebook LM is super interesting.
Yeah. Well, there's this feature, the audio overview, that really caught my eye. I think this could be big.
Yeah, the audio overview is very powerful. It basically uses AI and natural language processing, and you can take notes, lesson plans, even sheet music analysis, and turn it all into audio discussions.
So it's like having an AI assistant.
Exactly. It's like an AI assistant that can help you take all this information and make it easy to listen to, easy to understand.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I'm already thinking about how band directors could use this. Like, imagine you just finished a rehearsal and you've been working on a tricky passage,
Hmm.
maybe in like a first suite in E flat.
Right.
And instead of just leaving the students with notes, they could upload those notes or a score with annotations right into Notebook LM.
Yeah, and then the AI would just go through all those notes, pick out the key takeaways for each section of the band, and it would structure it all into an audio guide.
So the students could listen to it at their own pace and
Exactly.
come to the next rehearsal better prepared.
Hmm.
That's awesome. That's a really great way to reinforce learning and make sure everyone is on the same page, literally. But it's not just rehearsal notes, right? I was also looking at how this could be used for music history.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what about composer study?
Composer study is perfect for this.
Yeah.
It's so hard to make music history come alive. But with Notebook LM, a teacher could upload their notes on a composer.
So, like Gustav Holst?
Yeah, Holst
Yeah.
or Duke Ellington.
Oh, yeah, Ellington would be cool.
And the AI would create an audio discussion that connects the composer's life and their influences and their musical style.
So, like a personalized podcast about the composer?
Exactly.
That's so much more engaging than just reading a textbook.
Way more engaging.
Mm.
And think about how this would help auditory learners.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's not about replacing traditional teaching methods.
Yeah.
It's about having another way for students to engage with the material. And this actually leads us to another interesting application, sheet music analysis.
Oh, yeah, music theory.
Music theory can be tough, but imagine being able to just upload a challenging score.
And have the AI just break it all down.
Right.
Explain those tricky rhythms and harmonies.
Exactly. And it's not even just about explaining concepts, it's about personalizing the learning.
Hmm.
Teachers could tailor their analyses to different learning styles, or they could focus on areas where students are struggling.
That's what's so cool about this technology. It's not just one size fits all. This could really individualize music education.
Yeah.
Speaking of individualizing, what about independent practice? We all know how important it is for students to practice outside of class,
Right.
but it's hard for them to stay motivated.
It is. That's where Notebook LM could be really, really powerful.
Yeah, how so?
Imagine students having access to audio versions of sight reading exercises
Oh, wow.
or scale routines,
Yeah.
even section-specific practice notes.
So they could listen to these guides while they practice, so they're
Yeah.
getting that extra support even when they're not with their teacher.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
It really is like having a virtual practice buddy. Really
That's
helpful.
what you said.
But this focus on individual needs makes me think, what about using this to communicate?
What do you mean?
Well, communication between teachers and students and parents.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
right, keeping everyone informed. It can be tough for music educators.
It can be.
I mean, there's so much going on. I'm
Yeah.
imagining things like band handbooks, concert schedules,
Yeah.
trip itineraries.
Yeah.
What if you could just turn those into audio clips?
Exactly.
Easy to listen to, especially for parents, Some parents would much rather listen to that information than have to read through a long document.
Absolutely. And it could make things more accessible for some students, too.
Right. Students with different learning styles or different needs. This is really cool stuff. This tech could make things a lot more inclusive and accessible for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
And, speaking of inclusivity, one thing that really caught my eye was using Notebook LM for student leadership.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting.
I was reading about how student leaders could create instructional podcasts
Oh, wow.
using this AI.
That's a great idea.
They could take notes on responsibilities or sectional practice strategies, even their own insights, and turn it all into audio guides for other students.
Well, that's amazing. That would be like peer-to-peer learning.
Yeah.
It wouldn't just be the teacher giving out the information.
Right. The students would be creating and sharing knowledge,
Yeah.
which I think could create a much deeper understanding for the students and maybe even like a stronger sense of community within the music program.
Yeah. And it also really encourages students to take ownership of their learning.
Mm.
They become mentors to their peers. And it shifts things away from like a top-down approach.
Right. It becomes much more collaborative.
Exactly. Much more student-centered.
And it taps into the way a lot of students already learn best,
How's that?
by teaching, by explaining concepts to each other.
Oh, yeah.
This is like formalizing that.
Yeah, it gives them the tools to create high-quality learning materials.
Right. It's like a student-led masterclass.
That's a great way to put it. A student-led AI-powered masterclass
Right.
happening in the band room
Right.
or the practice room, and it makes knowledge more accessible. Lets the students learn from each other.
I like that. That's very cool. So we've talked about a lot of different things here.
We have.
And I think it's pretty clear that Notebook LM could be a really powerful tool for music education.
I think so, too.
From rehearsals and practicing to, learning and student leadership.
It really does seem like the possibilities are endless.
Endless. But it's important to remember that Notebook LM is still kind of experimental.
Right, it is.
This is new. We're all learning as we go.
That's right. What works for one teacher or one student might not work for another.
Yeah, you've got to approach this with a critical eye.
Yeah.
And a willingness to experiment,
Exactly. You got to find what fits best for you and your students, for your teaching style,
Oh.
and for your goals,
I hope that's what people are getting from this deep dive.
What do you mean?
Like, I hope it's a spark for their imagination and a starting point for exploring how to use this in their own world.
I like that.
I mean, we're not giving out a step-by-step guide here. We're just trying to get people to think, to be creative about all the possibilities.
And to share their ideas with others.
Mm.
What about you? What aspects of Notebook LM stand out to you? What are you already envisioning? We want to hear from you. Keep this conversation going.
Because this is all about empowering music educators and students, helping them reach their full potential. And who knows, maybe Notebook LM is the key to unlocking even more creativity and innovation in music.
Imagine if every student had access to these personalized learning experiences, if rehearsals were more efficient, more engaging. Imagine if the joy of making music was amplified by the power of technology. I think that's something worth striving for.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So before we wrap things up, I want to leave everyone with one last thought, one last question. We've been focusing on music education, but what if we think bigger?
Okay.
What other ways could this technology be used? Not just in music, but in other fields of study. I mean, could it revolutionize how we learn languages or history or science? Like anything. It feels like we're on the verge of a whole new world of learning.
It is exciting to think about, isn't it? And that's what's so cool about this whole conversation. We're not just talking about like a piece of software. We're talking about a shift in how we learn and how we share knowledge.
It's like Notebook LM is a catalyst. It's making us rethink education, and look for new ways to make information more accessible.
Exactly. And it reminds us that innovation often happens when different fields come together. Something that starts as a tool for music could have huge effects on other subjects.
It makes you wonder what other uses are out there, waiting to be discovered. And that's what I love about all of this. It's a call to action for educators and for students to be curious and to experiment, to push the boundaries,
For sure. Future of learning isn't just about, sitting there and taking in information. It's about shaping knowledge,
Yeah,
connecting with others, and using tech to be creative and to collaborate.
yeah. I like that. Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. We've talked about the potential of Notebook LM and this audio overview, but the journey starts now.
Yeah, it's up to all of us to take what we've learned and see how it fits into our own learning and teaching. Don't be afraid to experiment. Ask questions. Share what you find out with other people.
Because learning is something we do together. And who knows, maybe one of you listening will discover the next big thing for this technology. Thanks for joining us.